Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I am so glad that you're continuing to listen along on the journey that I'm taking you through to be both mentally and physically healthier in a healthier mindset. This week, we have Caitlyn Fowler joining us. Caitlyn is a close friend of mine. She is the creator of the very powerful empowerment video series, Just a Piece of Me. We actually talk a little bit about that series in the beginning of this episode. And it is something that is definitely worth checking out. But like I said, Caitlyn's been a very good friend of mine for several years now. We took a couple classes in our undergraduate studies together, and then a few more in our graduate level classes together. And she's just a great person to talk to. Reading about her Just a Piece of Me series is what prompted me to want her to come on and discuss some of her personal experiences with me, because I felt it was important to the overall purpose of this podcast series. So, remember in the beginning I talked about how I would discuss my own personal journey, but the overall goal, and it's important to me, is that I share with everybody this because there's a lot of things I didn't know when I started doing all this that I kind of wish I had known. I didn't know that in the process of, trying to get myself physically healthier, that there would be a whole lot of mental health things I needed to address that would, reveal itself to me. So just having somebody who's a very big believer in, different forms of body positivity, because she has experienced different levels of, body shaming, and just having somebody who, kind of has a strong confidence in herself and explain, how she's able to go about doing that was very important to me. And I'm so glad and so very grateful and thankful that Caitlyn gave me her time to share with me her experiences and, things that she has gone through and how she has handled it. I think it's very important to kind of get as many different angles and sides of this as possible. So please enjoy this episode with Miss Caitlyn Fowler. And I just thank you all for listening and for continuing along on this path with me. Thank you. So I have with me here Caitlyn Fowler. She created the Just a Piece of Me video series that ran through Facebook, through Instagram video last year, in the springtime of last year, right? Because you graduated, or is it earlier this year?
It was actually earlier this year, so like spring of 2021.
Wow, look at how the time is just blending together.
I know.
We'll look back on COVID time and realize that just it all blended together.
It did.
So, Caitlyn, I want to thank you for agreeing to, be on this with me, kind of do this with me here, because I know when watching the Just a Piece of Me video series, it kind of stirred some emotions in me, just, obviously, because that was from a purely female's perspective, which obviously as a male, I'll never understand everything that you would have to go through on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I just feel like this sometimes every now and then, but just then having to live with that every day, it was a real eye opener, and it was something I really appreciated seeing. Can you talk to me a little bit about kind of the genesis of that idea for you?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm glad that it sparked some emotion in you, because that's the idea. It was kind of supposed to be a little bit therapeutic, a little bit informative for all of the women that came in and interviewed, but it was also supposed to be informative, not just, to help other women understand that they're not the only ones going through this. Like, all women go through the same situations, but hopefully that, men can see it and realize what women go through on a daily basis and kind of understand their perspectives. I know. And I will talk about the project, but like for my fiance, which is weird saying because I'm newly engaged.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. But for my fiance, it's been interesting. It was interesting going through that project and kind of listening to these stories whenever I was editing the videos and everything. And just telling him, like, on a day-to-day basis, I don't like going to the gas station in the evenings, even if I do, when it's dark, because of, you know, anybody creepy that might be around. I'm always looking around at my surroundings. My dad, since I was little, told me to always keep my head on a swivel. And so that's what I do. And to this day, he still tells me that. I always park up right next to the front door under a light, like under a street light if I need to. Things like that, just as far as safety goes. But I guess going back to your original question, what sparked the idea? So it was for my grad project for grad school, and I really wanted to do something that was more meaningful than what I had been thinking of. I had a few ideas originally, and they just didn't seem to have any substance to them when I thought them through, and when I would tell people about them, like, I was excited, but I could tell there wasn't as much excitement coming out of them and their reactions. And I wanted to do a video project. I've never done anything video related, and I really wanted to do that through some other projects I had worked on in grad school with friends. And so I chose to go this avenue of doing these voluntary, anonymous interview videos. And I had seen this similar idea from this creator on TikTok who also has a YouTube series, and she would go up to strangers, set up her camera in Central Park in New York, and ask strangers to come up and answer her questions. And they were like hard-hitting questions, and they had the opportunity to either turn around and reveal their identity if they wanted to, or they could walk away and never have their identity revealed, but still be able to have that moment of getting out whatever might be on their chest or anything like that. And the one question that really kind of, well, it wasn't anything for that I've experienced, but she asked, what's the worst thing that anybody's ever said to you? And one of the guys on there said that his grandma or mom or something told him that he would never amount to anything.
Wow.
And then walked away. Like, he didn't show his identity or anything. And that, I was like, wow, like, the people that have the courage to come up here to some random stranger and do this in Central Park, I want to be able to somehow recreate that into my project. And that's what I did. And whenever I was thinking about this, you know, my mom is such a strong woman in my life and so independent and so herself and doesn't care about what anybody thinks. And so I feel like I've kind of become that too. But then in turn, I want to be that role model for my little sister, who's 14 right now. And she is, I mean, truly, she's inspired me to be myself without any care of what anybody else is going to think about how I am as myself. I want to live my life how I want to live my life. And, you know, I have a pretty outgoing personality, and I'm very, very bubbly, and sometimes that is a turnoff to people. And honestly, at this point in my life, I just am choosing to try and not care about that. So that's really where it sparked, and I wanted to shed light on other women's stories and show that all women go through the same things of trying to feel safe, sexual harassment or sexual assault, body image issues, whether it be just from the beginning that they've had that on their own, or if someone has said something to them that sparked those body image issues in themselves, and just being sexualized and all of that. So that's really where the idea sparked.
And it was, excuse me, it was such, again, it was a very powerful series, I thought it was.
Thank you.
It had been a while since I had seen some of the videos. So I, again, in the last couple of days, tried to refamiliarize myself with, you know, with what you'd posted on Instagram as well. I thought that was a good companion, you know, use of social media for the project. The body image issues was you know, of course, what struck a chord with me, because it's been, you know, several years since I've gone down in size, but it's like an everyday battle. I feel like doesn't get enough, or at least it's starting to get now enough attention. But for a while there, it just seemed like mental health was something that people would take for granted.
I know.
can you talk to me about the body positivity that you wanted to shed light on with this project?
Yeah, and honestly, I think through quarantine and stuff, we kind of joked about like it all meshing together, but all of last year, that's when I really got onto TikTok, and it started out because my sister was on it and I just wanted to see what she was posting, and then naturally I started posting my own dancing TikToks and all this stuff. But through that, it's such an authentic social media platform. Everybody really wants to show like the real side of themselves on there, which I really, really enjoy, because so much of social media, like Instagram and all of that is, well, specifically Instagram is so much of like what people want their lives to look like to everybody else. I mean, I don't post every single moment of my life on social media. I post more of the bigger moments. Mm-hmm. But that's just it. Like, you can see all of my Instagram posts and think that I am the happiest I've ever been, when in reality, like, the end of, or last semester, in the spring semester, I was at the lowest point mentally I'd ever been in my life while doing these projects.
What brought that on?
It was work related. I just was like so stressed, and I just, wanted to kind of do something bigger than what I had been doing, and I wasn't utilizing my talents where they should be, and it was just draining, and I was taking work home all the time. I mean, I would be checking my emails until 10 p.m. every single night through the weekend, worrying about work, and it was really, really strenuous. Mm-hmm. On top of grad school, I was working full-time, going to grad school almost full-time. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of moments that I really needed pick-me-ups from my loved ones and from my mentors and from my committee members. One of my committee members called me, or I think we were texting, and I kind of was just expressing that I was a little bit stressed. And she called me immediately and was just going on and on about, what she thought about my project, and it really like motivated me, and I immediately got up and I edited a full video in that time. I hadn't even put a video together. I got a video edited and all the social media created and all scheduled out right after that phone call. So that was the hardest, but I think that's what Instagram kind of gives the perception of, is that everybody's got this perfect life, everybody's got the perfect body, and that's just not reality. Like, a Kendall Jenner body for a woman is not realistic. It's not. And even that's not even what her real body will probably look like. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all edited, and that's really, really hard for anybody, really. From my perspective as a woman, it's hard, because that's what, you grow up thinking that all guys want. And luckily my fiance is not like that at all. He says that he likes a little bit of thickness. So like luckily I've had confidence no matter what's been said to me about my body. I feel like I've, not totally lost my sense of self and my confidence through that, but I know that's not how everybody is. So
what is your perspective, having now had that for yourself, and then having talked with other women who have rather anonymously or revealing themselves if they did? How do you feel social media has impacted that? If I know it's a long question, long rambling question.
I think, like I said, I think TikTok's really been helpful to see what women every day kind of like what they look like and their thoughts on their bodies and stuff. And it's not like it happens overnight. Like being, having a ton of self-confidence and everything, because it doesn't. Especially if people have been beaten down so much about their body image or other things that might come into play about how they feel about themselves and their bodies mentally. But that's a good question. But I think for me, that's kind of why I wanted to do the project, was to put something out there that showed what other women feel like with their bodies. Because when I asked women to come in, I didn't put any parameters on it other than they had to be at least 18 years old. I didn't care, what size you are, what race you are, what your sexual orientation is. None of that. I didn't put any parameters on any of that because everybody's got a story. But I really wanted it to be from an identifying woman's perspective. And I think it's so interesting that, I think more recently for women, it's kind of been in the past, heavier women have been the ones that typically people would assume always have body image issues, which is absolutely not the case. And there's just like double-edged sword because I try really hard. If I am having a bad day about my body image, I don't want to complain about it because I know to other people I'm small and they wish that they were, my weight. And vice versa, all of that stuff. But in reality, everybody, like if you're judging somebody's weight or someone comes up to me and is like, oh my gosh, you're so skinny. Like you never know what I could be going through. I could be going through an eating disorder. I could be, struggling with something with my health otherwise. And that's why I'm so skinny. And I'm trying to put on weight, in fact. And the other way around, you know what I mean? Like with some people, when they are heavier, they are probably like they could be working to, get their weight down, but everybody's body is built differently. And that's what I think that people forget.
You raise an excellent point there. What works for some people works for one person, whether or not they're trying to put on weight or lose weight isn't going to work for everybody. With regard, just again, since you're here, and you've put a lot of work into, just keeping yourself in as positive as a mindset as possible. What have you discovered works for you when you're having a day that maybe you are feeling a little down on yourself and you're trying to get it turned around?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Just because I come by those days very little anymore. But when I do, they're really hard. And typically it's just like when I'm more bloated or something like that. And I'm always, like every morning I always look in the mirror whenever I'm putting on my outfits or something like that. I always try and put on an outfit that always makes me feel good. But I love fashion, so that's also part of it. And kind of got down my makeup routine, all of that stuff to like know what's going to look good on me. And if I am down, honestly, typically it's on like a weekday, so I go to work and then like nothing's on my mind about like how I look or anything. But I try and keep in mind that nobody's paying attention to the little things that I'm probably seeing. I see my body every single day, so it's so easy for me to see all of the little things that might look wrong to me in my eyes. And that's like kind of like body dysmorphia. Like I can see something one day. I can look in the mirror today and think, you know what? Like I don't work out and I eat awful. But so I'm really grateful for the body that I have, and the body that allows me to get up every day and move around and continues to do that for me. But then there's other days that I can look and be like, oh my gosh, like you do not need to go get McDonald's for the third time today. You don't. And so it's just those things. A lot of times I'll kind of look down and, I'll tell my fiance, like, I just don't feel great about my body today. And usually he comes up and will like squeeze my butt and tell me I've got a nice butt. And then and then it kind of makes it better, but it's just those things. I try and find parts of my body that I absolutely love no matter what. And I always look in the mirror and tell myself that I'm looking good. And I think that's the hard thing for people, is being able to do that, because you don't want to come off as conceited even by yourself behind closed doors.
Right.
No one wants to come off that way. But it's okay to love yourself and to be confident about yourself. And if you have to tell yourself in the mirror, like positive affirmations, then tell yourself in the mirror that you look good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do. Can you recall, and if only if you want to share, the kind of the first time you were cognizant of, did I just get body shamed? Like, did that just happen? And then if you can and you want to share, can you discuss maybe how that made you feel, how you dealt with it, and now looking back with all the knowledge you have now, how you are able to put that behind you and move forward from it?
Yeah. I had to think about this a lot because also along with my video project, I didn't want to ask these women to answer these questions and then I can't step up to the plate too. And so I would answer the questions on my Instagram stories through the Just a Piece of Me Instagram stories. And so one of them was, has anybody ever said anything about your body? Any negative comments about your body? And negative, like it could, in their eyes, be like a positive thing or a helpful thing, but it's really not. It is body shaming. And so I had to really think back to my first memory of that. And I can't think of anything when I was really young. I mean, besides the fact that I'm just naturally a small person, I'm 5 foot tall and I'm 25 years old. So I'm like really little. So people would always comment on me being short, which whatever at this point, like I just go along with that. But in regards to like my figure and everything, there's been a couple of times. So in high school, I was on the cheer team and there was a few other girls. So I was a flyer. You already know I'm 5 foot. So I was a flyer. So I was the one being tossed up in the air. And there was another girl who was dating my brother at the time. And she also on occasion would be a flyer, but she was at this point like a junior in high school. So she had kind of grown up and her body had changed, and so she wasn't. And I think that she was upset that she wasn't a flyer anymore. And in all of that, keep in mind, she's also dating my brother still at this time. And so she had texted me and told me that I was a tank and that I needed to basically be lighter whenever I'm being thrown in the air. And it's like, how do I control that? I literally can't control that. So she calls me a tank and I am just in tears. And I told my brother and he's like over it. Like he knows that was wrong at this point. But at the time he was like, well, she's just trying to help you, Caitlyn, and all of that. And keep in mind, again, they're dating. So it's like puppy love type of stuff. So he's going to stick up for her. But she had called me a tank. Another girl called another girl a tank. Like that you're on a team with, and she was the one that was throwing me in the air. How am I supposed to trust that person to throw me in the air?
Right. That makes it hard.
Yeah. So again, another story was with cheerleading. So there's a pattern here. And I was on the cheer team for a very small amount of time in college, and we were doing our uniform try-on. So all of the guys and all the girls on the team were in a room together. And a lot of the girls came from like competitive cheerleading backgrounds where I just came from high school cheer. I didn't have any of that experience. And so my workout routines were not the same, not as extensive. And so I have just like a little pooch on my lower belly. Okay. And at the time it was not even the same. It was like even smaller than it is now. And the coach had come up to me and in front of everybody and smacked my belly and said that we need to get rid of that. And that was so embarrassing. Like I'm around all these people I don't really know. I've never really got to know them yet because we're just new on a team together. And she just comes up and does that. And I was like, what do you say to that? Like you can't, what am I supposed to say? Like, you can't really say much, but now I know, I mean, at 25 years old, like, I am a woman, and I personally plan to, have a child at least in the next few years, and through that, talking about anatomy here, I'm not trying to be weird, but, like, women have, like, a whole package of stuff down there that holds a child.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so my stomach being flat 24/7 is not going to happen.
Right.
You have to eat. You're going to get bloated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to do that. And so it just is what it is. And so it was really, really embarrassing. Fortunately, I was still strong-minded enough for that to not affect anything that I did moving forward. Like, I still was eating cheeseburgers and stuff and still eating chicken nuggets. But again, I know that's not the case for everybody. And if she had said that to the right person, that could have completely triggered something else.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to go on and do something very unhealthy with their body. And that's, at this point, what I'm more concerned about is comments like that being made to people, and you never know what they're going through.
Right.
Like, fortunately, I don't have an eating disorder or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't trigger that, but it could have in the right person. And so that's why I just don't think that's right. And same with the girl in high school
Mm-hmm.
saying that comment to me.
What would be your advice for anybody who, whether or not they're trying to gain weight, they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to lose weight, maybe they've lost weight,
Mm-hmm.
and they just, like you mentioned before, you see your body every day.
Mm-hmm.
So every single one of us is able to pick out the imperfections that we have. For me, I have quite a bit of loose skin,
Mm-hmm.
and what we would call a stomach pooch. It just
Yeah.
it never receded. It's
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah.
And so when I see it, it makes me feel like I'm every bit as 350 pounds as I used to be, even though I know I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would be your advice for anybody who might be going through something along any of those lines? They want to know,
Mm-hmm.
does it get better? Or in your opinion?
I think it does. Again, I've been fortunate to not have the same experiences mentally as other people have, and I just can't imagine what anybody else goes through. I don't have the same experience as you, so I can't imagine what you go through, mentally on a day-to-day basis, just trying to deal with that. I mean, because you're open about that with
Mm-hmm.
your weight change and posting that on Facebook, and I am just in total awe of that. That's phenomenal, because you look amazing. So know that.
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
all about giving the compliments and letting people feel good about themselves. But I think it does get better. I think it's hard to work on it. It's not going to happen, like I said earlier, overnight. Everybody's body is different. And so we had said it before. What I do on a day-to-day basis isn't going to work for your body on a day-to-day basis. And something more recently that I've tried to kind of instill in myself is what's frustrated me is the clothes sizing and how different it is across different brands.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm buying a pair of jeans at American Eagle, my size is going to be completely different than if I'm buying a pair of jeans from another store,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is very frustrating and can very much confuse people. Because at first I was getting really frustrated that, in high school I was wearing a size 0, and then I am now 25 and I'm wearing a size 8, and I'm like, no, that's not good. That's not good. I need to be down to a size 0, and that is not going to happen. I was not meant to be a size 0. And so through that, I've kind of changed my perspective, and I want to feel good in what I'm wearing. And I'm not going to try to make the clothes fit. Let me rephrase this. The clothes are going to fit my body. I'm not going to try and fit into the size. The size is, do you know what I mean?
No, it's an excellent point you make.
Yeah. I'm not going to let the clothes define what my body looks like. My body looks how it looks, and I'm going to get the clothes that look good on my body and not let them define how my body looks. So that's also something that I think has helped me a little bit too.
You mentioned earlier, it was kind of brief, but I know you've done it before on TikTok, because you've shared with me before about it, the daily affirmations. So
Yeah.
I know, because you mentioned that it's something that may not work for everybody, but there are going to be people out there that maybe aren't sure what that is. So can you just maybe share with anybody who might be listening in the future what that entails, and maybe it might be beneficial to them.
I think the daily affirmations you're referring to are my funny lip syncing ones of anxiety, which are very funny. But I think daily affirmations are basically you just looking at yourself in the mirror, or if you don't have a mirror, just like telling yourself, telling your mind the things that you want to feel good about yourself. Because our mind is so powerful, and that's where like body dysmorphia comes into play. And I, in my mind, look bigger than I'm sure what other people see me as. And that's all in the mind. So you have to rewire your mind to tell yourself every day that you do look good. And that's where it gets really hard to, have the self-confidence and really grow that in yourself. And so daily affirmations can be something a little bit more poetic, like I am strong, I am beautiful, I am talented, stuff like that. For me, it's not that poetic. I just look in the mirror and I'll put on my outfit and I'll be like, oh my God, I look good today. And like my fiance had asked me, how do you just look in the mirror and just do that? How do you just tell yourself that you look good all the time? Like, I mean, I do look good. And so I'm going to tell myself that. And through that, I don't need anybody else to tell me that. Because whatever anybody else's words say, like, I appreciate it if you do think that I look good. That's great. Thank you. But I know I look good. So if somebody comes in and says, I'm not really feeling that today, it's like, well, that's good for you. Thanks for the opinion that I didn't ask for. But I think I look good. So
it sounds something along the lines of kind of helping your brain rewire its synapses to think differently.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is hard. It's really hard with, what the world tells us that we need to think, do, look like, act like, all of that. It's really hard. Like from the moment you're little, I think it's really hard if your brain is like mush. Your brain is like absorbing everything. It's a sponge. And if from the moment you're little, you're being told you need to look like this, you need to act like this, you need to think like this, of course that's what you're going to think when you're older. And if that's still all you expose yourself to, you're never going to change your thought process. And so there's a few videos that are really cute on TikTok of like dads in the mirror with their daughter or their son, and they're doing positive affirmations with their daughter or their son. Everything from the moment they're like 2 years old and they can talk and everything, and they're kind of like reiterating those words to them for them to start saying to themselves from the moment they're like 2 years old, to give them that positive reinforcement about themselves.
That's great. I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So what would be, I guess, just, again, someone who has, faced some of this, body shaming or, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound as if you've necessarily had a sense of body dysmorphia like others might have. Not to maybe minimize if you have in the past.
No, that's true.
You've always seemed to carry yourself with relative sense of confidence, but acknowledging that it's not easy for everyone to do so. So with you acknowledging that, what would be your advice to anybody that maybe is going through that? What would you recommend as somebody who has experienced it, but
not on the same level?
Not on the same level.
Not on the same level, yeah. That's hard to speak to since I haven't experienced it on the same level. But I think talking about your experiences is good, but I know not everybody's comfortable with that. So, like, I can say this all I want. I don't go to therapy, but I know that it's really helpful for a lot of people, and you don't really have to have a reason to go. You can just go, and then who knows, it might help you out with something. So I think that's a really good resource. I think, God, social media is what's the hardest about all of this, and even media in general is what's really hard about it, because you could be on this track to, bettering what your mind thinks about yourself and about your body. But then you see one little thing on social media or on TV. And so it's so hard when we're exposed to what the media wants us to see all of the time. But I think just having those moments to center yourself and trying to do those positive affirmations. I think writing down in a notebook things that you like about yourself. Maybe your list is really small at first. And then through the process, a month goes by, you've added like 5 things to that list and you didn't even realize that you were adding it. So I think my advice is just at first, depending on where your level of confidence is looking in the mirror and telling yourself, like finding 1, 2, 3, 4, again, wherever your level's at, 5 things that you love about your body. And that could literally be anything. You could say, I really like how my nails look today. And that's such a little thing, but in the grand scheme of things could turn into a big thing. I love the color of my eyes. I love like my back. Just things like that. Just trying to find those little things about yourself, even if it's like your personality. That's one thing that really helped with my confidence is trying to choose kindness over anything. And this is really getting off track. I'm really rabbit trailing here, but not really, but when I go through the drive-thru, a lot of like at McDonald's or something, there will always be somebody that like compliments my nails or something like that. And so that always makes me feel really good. And I used to work in a drive-thru, and so I know how difficult that is. And so I really want to go through and try and make those people feel good. So I'll try and find something to compliment somebody on. And I've also challenged myself that if I'm out in public and I see a girl and she's looking like she's got a really good outfit on or something, I'm going to go tell her that she looks good.
It's a great mindset to have. I like what you said about kind of starting, even if it's small, but got to take the first step at some point and then hope, obviously continue and it can build. So I think it's some really good advice that you have there for anybody that may be starting to experience things and doesn't want it to snowball or is just in it and needs anything to try to help them out.
But I know that's hard too. So I think just making sure that you've got a really good support system around you. You've got people in your life that choose to build you up. If you've got anybody in your life that's making you feel that way and making you start having those feelings about your body, then they don't need to be in your life. Because you need to have people in your life that are there to make you feel good and lift you up and support you and love you. And so if you have those people in your life, use them because they just make the process a lot easier.
Well, Caitlyn, that was all I have today.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for coming in. And I am going to, even though you've since graduated, obviously congratulations, by the way, on
thank
that.
You.
Because I actually haven't seen Caitlyn in person for, it's probably been over a year now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But if you haven't watched her series, the Just a Piece Made, definitely do so. It's very eye-opening from all walks, not, for women empowerment, women's safety, having to deal with sexual harassment on a daily basis. And then obviously, any sort of body image issues and mental health issues surrounding that. It was just a really great series, and I cannot recommend it enough for anybody who wants to kind of get an idea of what a female has to go through on a daily basis, especially men who need to understand that this is something that we don't have to deal with on a daily basis. Definitely give it a watch. And I want to thank you for being able to share with me some of your personal experiences relating to body image issues and how you've dealt with them and the advice you've given for anybody who might be seeking some of it. So thank you very much for your time today.
Oh, of course. Anytime.
Life After Extreme Weight Loss, hosted by Brandon Schneider and produced by Brandon Schneider with help from the Elite School of Communication. If you need help navigating mental health, reach out to Counseling and Prevention Services or your local healthcare professional.